Namaste, Miniji. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, hellomyyoga, for giving such a wonderful platform, also with very relevant topics, modern, traditional, and given in such a easy to understand and imbibe format. So thank you for this platform that you're giving students and us together. And thank you for organizing this. Would you like for me to begin, or?
Yes, Miniji, the session is all yours.
All right. So I'm just going to say a little invocation prayer. Since Ganesh is the deity of removing of obstacles, which also means removing tamaguna, or lethargy, inertia, anxiety, depression, anything that comes in the way of learning and doing something that helps us fructify whatever we take up, I will dedicate our first prayer to Lord Ganesh. Om Ganana Tva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kaveen Kaveenam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmana Brahmanaspata Ana Shrimvannuti Bhisida Sadhanam Om Maha Ganapataye Namaha. So I'm going to put everyone on gallery, so I know who I'm speaking to. Hi Tiha, nice to see you. You must be in Europe now. Okay. So yes, today's topic was culled out of several roadmaps that yoga and Ayurveda have given us. And because it's 1 hour and the time is limited, I just wanted to leave you with some practices that you already may be doing, but just to understand the cause and effect of respiratory and breathing correctly, the causes of not breathing correctly and the effect of breathing correctly. And this is what I want to leave you with, because at the end, ultimately, all practices are designed around management of prana. In yoga and Ayurveda, everything is about managing, moving, balancing, redistributing, expanding prana. Okay, so prana is that innate intelligence that moves within us, that helps us think, helps us move, helps our sensory movements, helps our heartbeat. And prana is the intelligence behind everything that we are physiologically and emotionally and spiritually designed to do. So I want to talk about movement of prana via the tool of breath. Now, the breath is not prana. The breath is the tool for prana. The breath is a carrier, the communication or the transportation for prana. So I will talk about breath, and I'll talk about basic building blocks of your respiratory system and its very sophisticated machinery that's come about with years of evolution, and how underutilized it is and how we can optimize its use. So respiration is something that excites me on all levels. Not only does it excite me because it prepares me for deeper spiritual practices, but what's lovely about breath practice is that it's detoxification, it's movement of debris, of allergens, of waste products out of your body via the thymus, via the lymph, and moving your physiological functions of the body in such a way that it prepares you for removing tamoguna from the body or elimination. It's a wonderful pull and push of all the subsects of Vata dosha, of subsects of Vata dosha are essentially, Vata is a subsect of prana. So Vata is essentially a biological function of prana, where it moves, where it should move, what should it do, what is its dharma, which vayu makes us digest, which vayu makes us think, which vayu helps us express ourselves, which vayu helps us eliminate. So Vata is essentially a function of prana. So we talk about the big umbrella of prana, then we talk about the Vata dosha and how it can be used to move and manipulate and expand the prana in our body. So it's about longevity, about health, about radiance, beauty, inner beauty, and of course your vitality. And this is why pranayama excites me. It excites me because it is not only preparing me for meditation and dhyan, but it's also giving me this sort of prakash, or it's giving me this sort of clarity, this luminosity that we need at many times. I like to look at modern science in yoga, and I like to look at texts of yoga, and I love how modern science is catching up all the time to what yogis have always known. And I love that validation that comes with science and how the pieces come together. But essentially, what I want to leave you with, there's lots of theory, it's complex. Self-practices can be long and it can take you a lifetime, it can take you many lifetimes. But in that expansion, in that complexity, in that sophistication, our self-care practices with pranayama, or taking care of the senses, of our indriyas, of our rituals, of our morning practices, our evening practices, our ritucharya, dinacharya, in all of those complexities of those practices lies complete simplicity. There is so much simplicity that sometimes you just say, is this it? Is this it? So how the magic unfolds is really with abhyas, with the practice. And it doesn't have to be, it has to be long, sustained, committed practice. It cannot be in short bursts, or it can't be half an hour every day. It has to be short, sustainable, long, and it has to be over time. You have to be established in your practice with devotion. There are many sutras that describe it. And also another aspect of taking care of yourself, another wonderful aspect is one of my favorite prayers, which puts it together really beautifully, is when you take care of yourself via taking care of your eyes, what your eyes bring in, what your ears bring in, the information that comes into our prana, everything that we bring in is prana vayu. Everything, what we eat, we drink, what we see, what impressions that come in is prana vayu. And everything that we need to eliminate, process, get rid of, not keep is apana vayu. So may I bring in through my ears, through my eyes, good tidings. May I look at things with my eyes softly, non-judgmentally. May I take care of my limbs, my circulation of my vyana vayus, and may I look after the circulation of my stomach, my digestion, samana vayu. May I take care of my vayus, my limbs, my breath, my sense organs, to be able to be of service to humanity, to be able to be a good caretaker. So on Women's Day, it makes complete sense for us to once again put those little investments in for ourselves for longevity, because it's only what we do in our Pitta years, our Madhyam, our middle years, does it reap benefit in our Vriddha Avastha, which is our Second, our last stage of our life. One is the building, growth, and repair, the Kapha stage. The mid stage is Pitta stage of your life, where you have your ambitions, you have things to do, there's things to be done, there's desires. And then there is the Vriddhavastha, where there is the wisdom of the beauty of the third stage of the life. Now imagine coming into that very, very austere, very delicate stage of your life depleted. Imagine coming into that life after your 50 is when your Vriddhavastha is supposed to. But of course, now the 50s are your new new 40s. But imagine coming into your Vriddhavastha depleted, tired, exhausted, not vital, depleted. It takes that much more time for the practices to set in. So I always say, what you invest in this decade of your life is going to help you in the next 3 decades of your life. So build practices which are sustainable, which are short. Come into your practices with devotion. Come into your practices with love. Willingly fall in love with the mornings, because the quality of mornings and evenings are such where you can actually bring in that aspect of change, of transition. Now, the beauty about, there's many ways yoga and Ayurveda overlap. Many ways they overlap, and then they have their own strengths. But both of their strengths lies in preventative care, in preventative medicine. And they both say the same thing. And this is what it comes. It says, basically, they say there is air everywhere, there is oxygen everywhere. It's within us, it's around us. Yet, there seems to be a lack of flow, a lack of coordination. There's too much prana in the head. There's too much buzz in the head. We're too much in the head. And there seems to be depletion somewhere in our apana, in our lower body, in our stomach, in maybe our circulation. There is depletion somewhere because there's way too much prana in one part of the body. And so this whole thing is about bringing all the vayus in this wonderful homeostasis, Saumya Dhatu, bringing it into this lovely homeostasis to be able to balance that uneven flow of prana. So everything about yoga and Ayurveda is the management of prana, to take it out from where it is overly buzzed, overly volatile. Maybe we're too much in the head, we're speaking too much, so it's too much udana. There's not enough rest. So we're always thinking, we're always doing, we're always, there's tension, there is always a constant state of readiness, because living in lifestyles like ours, in the pace of our city life like ours, and it doesn't help that we have a ping coming from our phone, or a little alarm coming from our instruments. We're distracted. We're always in a state of readiness, and there is obviously depletion of prana. And these little vikritis, little imbalances eventually leads to disease. So yoga and Ayurveda say the same thing as sister sciences. We are going to manage your prana, so your prana can move into its dharma, into its function, and be balanced in those places. So that's what breathing does. It brings radiance, inner vitality, prepares you for, it detoxifies, because it takes care of elimination. It moves all the debris of the lymph into your thymus, your biggest garbage, your biggest dustbin, and moves into the organs of elimination. And that takes care of your elimination. That takes care of preparing your body for more sattva, for luminosity, for dhyan, for dharana. It takes care of putting your pranas into places. So imagine coming to that state of being able to expand your breath, expand your prana, expand your longevity, expand the quality of your life, enhance the quality of life with just something so simple as the tool of your breath. So why aren't more of us doing pranayama? What stops us from doing pranayama? Where should we even begin? What is a starting point? The starting point is to help you understand, at least that's how I got interested in it, is I got into it by taking the overactivity and the tension out of my physical body first. Taking the rajas. Asana takes the rajas out of the body, takes tension out of your muscles, takes pain and aches, and slows you down a little bit. Rajas is activity, movement. But if it is chronic, then we have too much cortisol, we have too much adrenal. Hormones are getting strange messages. There isn't enough rest. So I was somebody who took the, what should I say, from my own experience, distraction to me was becoming a way of life. I didn't have the viveka, or to be able to discern between doing one thing properly at a time, doing one task at a time. There was always this sense of overactivity. So this is how I feel we begin our pranayama practices, is to wake up in the morning, and I will talk about why morning, the qualities of the morning, the gunas of the morning, and what is it that we should do to be able to sit down for a still practice. It doesn't have to be I'm talking about early morning. I mean, I'm not talking about 8 o'clock or 8:30. I'm talking about 5:30, 6. If 6 is also too early, maximum 6:30, because then the kapha hours come in. And you want to be able to do these, anything that you want to change as a habit should be done in the Vata hours, because Vata hours of the morning, see the Vata hours of the morning are the early mornings. So, yeah. Yes. So those Vata hours of the morning when I'm talking about is in Ayurveda. See, I will move in out of Ayurveda and move out of yoga often. So just leave your questions for me in the end. The Ayurveda divides the day, just like Ayurveda divided your life into 3: the Kapha years, the mid years of the Pitta years, the later years of the Vata years, the Madhyam Avastha and the Vriddha Avastha. The day also is divided into 4 hours each. Early morning, when there is the Brahma Mahurat, that beautiful time of the morning, the Rudra Mahurat. Then there is the Rudra the Rudra Mahurat is around when the sun is just rising. These are the Vata hours. These are hours of creativity. These are hours of knowledge. These are hours when all the elements, the 5 elements in nature, are in beautiful equilibrium. And when they're in equilibrium, this is when the body is ready for doing anything that changes old habit patterns. Anything. This is a time where you write, you study, you do practices which are practices around stillness. You do your pranayama. You put your pranas into its places. So Vata hours are in the morning from 6 o'clock, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., 4 hours. Then starts the Kapha hours. The Kapha hours is when you can do a fabulous yoga practice. You can take a brisk walk. You can do slightly stronger movements because you can ride on the strength of the Kapha. But I am going to stick to the Vata hours today because we're going to talk about prana. We're going to talk about breath. We're going to talk about radiance. So your morning hours is the time where you want to wake up, where the lymph is sluggish. The lymph is the biggest circulatory system in the body, and you want to move the lymph because it's sluggish. But the lymph only relies on 2 things. It relies on your movement, and it relies on this very important muscle at the base of the lung just underneath the lung, separating the stomach and the lung, called the diaphragm. The diaphragm is what it relies on for the lymph to move. There are 700 lymph glands in the body, 700 something lymph glands in our body. They actually take care of our immune system. They move all the junk and the gook out of our body. And you want movement. Morning is a time of movement, right? Vata hours. Vata means chala. Vata means mobility. Vata means movement, right? So morning is a time where the body wants to eliminate. It wants to get rid of. That's the time you get rid of even habits that are sticky. You want to get rid of stuff that's lying in your sinuses that you want to empty, hence neti. You want to get rid of exhalation, and exhalation will help also empty emotion, impressions. So Vata hours is a very important time that we often sleep and waste. We don't optimize those hours. So I'm going to give you a practice which is going to help you prepare for beautiful breath practices. How it starts is we get an understanding of the building blocks of our breath. What is our respiratory system? Essentially, our respiratory system, if you imagine a triangle, which starts here where our auxiliary muscles are, and the triangle, the base of the triangle is here. The widest part of the triangle is here where the diaphragm is, and the apex of the triangle is where the ancillary muscles are. This is how we should breathe. 80% here, 20% here. But what our lifestyles and our rushed lifestyles have made us chest breathers. Our chest, which is our clavicle, the muscles of the sigmoid and the neck, all of these muscles were never designed to do primary breathing. What was meant for primary breathing was always the elastic recoil of your rib cage and your diaphragm. This is what we don't emphasize and exercise enough of. So many of us have, without even realizing, till they manifest as some sort of anxiety, or they manifest as some sort of digestion problem, or they manifest as bloating, or they manifest as all sorts of issues, is that we have something called the lazy diaphragm. The diaphragm is a thick, supple band of muscle which probably hasn't moved in a very long time. Why hasn't it moved in a long time? Because we haven't accessed the lower lobes of our lungs. Now, the lower lobes of the lung has a very rich supply of blood. Maximum oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange takes place in the lower lobes of the lung. So we need to access the lower lobes of the lung, right? But we are breathing, well, in our cities, we are like rabbit breaths. We're always taking rabbit breaths, chest breathing, mostly chest breathing. And so we don't optimize this oxygen that's coming in. So breathing in is not merely taking in oxygen. Breathing in is taking that oxygen and pumping it and putting it into our organs and our tissues. When the oxygen goes into our tissues and our dhatus, that's real inspiration. Inspiration, as in pranavayu, moving in of oxygen. And so because there isn't enough inspiration, we're always carbon dioxide depleted. Now, we do need some carbon dioxide depleted, because that little bit of carbon dioxide, the presence of that tiny bit of carbon dioxide, is going to help us dump the oxygen into our organs, dump the oxygen into our tissues. And so that's when real respiration takes place. The other thing that happens when we move the diaphragm and we move with Ujjayi, you must have heard of the Ujjayi throat breathing, and you must have heard of the belly breathing or the yogi breathing. What it really does is it works on your vagal tone. What is your vagal tone? Your vagal tone is essentially the ability for you to be more resilient under times of stress. It's one of the 12 cranial nerves in our brain. Now, this is, and the longest. So it actually starts from the brain. It punctures the throat, which is why Ujjayi breathing is so settling and calming and grounding. It moves through the heart. It punctures the diaphragm. And then it moves into our abdominal organs. So when we're very tight in the stomach, and we haven't moved the diaphragm, we are not only straining the heart, we're aging faster. We're aging faster because we're not giving the heart enough rest time. And we don't have enough vagal tone. So when you must have heard of the sentence called grace under pressure. So grace under pressure is something we all eventually want to be, is to be able to tackle life stresses with calm and ease and to come out of it with minimum damage, right? That is your vagal tone. And the vagal tone, your vagal tone, the stronger your vagal tone, the more your system sounds off an alarm when there is a time of stress. The vagal tone sounds off an alarm that let's ease the stress out. Let's ease the stress out. The more the vagal tone, the more you can take care of your everyday situations. And that vagal tone again moves with the diaphragm. So in another culture, in the African American culture, they call the diaphragm, they give it the analogy of a horizon that separates the sky from the ocean. So the diaphragm also separates the heart and all the muscles above the lungs, and it separates the gallbladder, the pancreas, everything below the two parts of the body are separated by this diaphragm. When you want blood circulation to come to the gallbladder, the pancreas, and all the abdominal organs, remember we talked about the vagal nerve that moves through the abdominal organs. When we want to bring blood supply to the organs underneath the diaphragm, it's the diaphragm that needs to move. So it's like that. It's like a dome. You want to move the diaphragm so it's constantly bringing nutrition and pumping oxygen, oxygenated blood in and out, carbon dioxide rich blood out of the organs into the lungs. And so there's many roles of the diaphragm. Okay. So 80% of the breath is the base of the triangle. Always visualize that triangle. And 20% of the breath are the system, the helpers, the collarbone, the clavicles, the sternum. These are the helper muscles. You don't want to spend your life breathing from the helper muscles and resting the secondary muscles. This is going to help you a lot in something called the yogic breath, or the breath which is the belly breaths. So that is one aspect of the breathing. And the other aspect of the breathing is posture. Posture plays a very important role in making your systems in such a way that immediately it affects your mood. It affects your gaseous exchange of oxygenated blood to carbon dioxide blood. So posture is something that even the monks focus on. The first 5-10 minutes of any dharana practice is posture, which is why asana plays a very important role, because everything we do in asana brings the lightness of the body to be able to sit in pranayama for a long time. But we are householders, we are caretakers, and our time is limited. So do your practices all your life in such a way that you don't have aches and pains and tension and collapse posture when you're sitting on a desk working on your computer, looking at your phone, doing your pranayama. Whatever you're doing, your posture muscles are strong enough for you to hold your carriage up. Once your carriage is up, it affects your mood, it affects your quality of your breath, and it affects your inspiration and expiration. So first thing is the posture. So I often tell people to find a comfortable seat below them. Like I always have a sturdy cushion. I have two. One is the one that supports my knee, and the other one is the one that supports my tailbone. Your basin, the basin of your the pelvic basin should be parallel to the floor. So imagine the pelvic basin is like a bucket. If your bucket spills forward or your bucket spills backwards, that's what you don't want, which is why a nice seat, a nice asana, a still, steady, solid base is important in your posture to be able to do any practices that take you to spiritual endeavors, whatever your spiritual endeavors are. The other thing that where Ayurveda meets yoga is yoga gave us the 6 shat kriyas. They gave us the 6 cleansing kriyas. Kriyas is action, right? But these are cleaning kriyas. Kriyas for purification. What do you want to purify? You want to take the phlegm, the phlegm, the mucus, or anything that's coming in the way of breathing practices or health and longevity. So they gave us 6 shat kriyas. Shat means 6. They gave us 6 kriyas. And out of those 6, the 3 are important to take care of all of the phlegm that resides in our sinuses, that resides in the neck, and even the heaviness, of the photons inside of the eyes, which are constantly looking at screens. And our eyes do so much labor. Even the photons of the eyes are always excitedly hitting each other, and there is heat generated in the eyes. Even that heat is something that the yogis told us in Hatha Yoga Pradipika that you need to get rid of, is to cool the eye, not to have pitta in the eyes. Ayurveda looks at it as pitta, and yoga looks at it as a kriya, to clean the eyes of the excess heat by tratak. So they gave us the tratak. They gave us a very simple practice of letting the eyes water. I know someone who I met, she's about 60, 65, and she told me, we were talking about tratak, and she said, my mother, she doesn't wear glasses, and she used to always wake up in the morning when the sun was touching the horizon. She used to look at the sun when it was orange. And that is it. You just get that window of 1 minute. When you look at the sun, you can do the tratak looking at the sun. You can do not more than 10 seconds, 15 seconds. That's a different topic. How to do tratak to the sun is a different topic. Don't start doing it on your own till you have a teacher telling you how to. So you have tratak in the sun, taking care of the eyes. You have tratak to a lamp or a light or a diya or a ghee diya or an oil lamp. You have tratak on a point or a dot on the wall. You can do a tratak to a shivling. You can do a tratak to an om on the wall, stuck on the wall. Essentially, it is to release toxicity that we collect in the eyes by overuse of our senses. Okay. Then the Shatkriyas gave us the neti. The neti that we all know about, and once in a while we manage to do it. And some of us have this thing in our head that, oh, what if I drown? So the neti is another Shatkriya. Another very simple but a very potent, and I cannot emphasize enough the potent Kriya. And I hope and pray that you make it part of your daily ritual practice, is the Kapalbhati. So the Kapalbhati, and now I come back to diaphragm, is the Kapalbhati excites the diaphragm in the morning, wakes up the system, wakes up the Apana Vayu, wakes up the Prana Vayu, and which is why Kapalbhati means radiance, luminosity in the head. It's like a cranial, it's like a dilator, it's like a blood dilator. So every time you feel slightly tired, brain fog, low immune system, you bring Kapalbhati as part of your practice. Even if you don't want to start pranayama, even if your pranayama is rushed, you make sure you do your Kapalbhati, especially in this time, which is why we called it the spring session, because this is a time when Kapha is very, very heavy. Sorry, I'm coming back to Ayurveda again. Just like the days divided into Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the seasons in the year is also divided into Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So this is the Kapha time of the year, not of Kapha aggravation, of kapha accumulation, because we are just coming out of winter, and this is a time of winter melt. Take advantage of this winter melt and do kapalbhati, do neti, do a spring diet cleanse. This is the time that nature gives us to clean and melt and get rid of what we accumulated. So we can even seasonally move our pranayams. So if there's any time of the year you should do kapalbhati, it's now, from February up till April. Okay. How should we do our kapalbhati? First, with posture. First thing first is posture. Okay. I'll tell you what I do. First thing is posture. Make space for the carriage, for all of the organs in your carriage to be unobstructed. Make space for the lymph to move. And when I do kapalbhati in the morning, and I put my water in a in a heater, in a jug to heat for my herbal tea in the morning, at that time I'm doing my kapalbhati. I put my systems in such a place that I make it convenient for myself. I don't have to set up and make time. I just fit it in because it's become a way of life. So I do my kapalbhati literally like this. I keep my back straight. I put my back, because I want my back straight, right? Posture. I put my hips to a wall. I place my hand to my knee, and I just go. It's stomach pumping. Okay, because that's the time when I am heating my water for my jalneti. I am heating my water for my tea, and I'm doing kapalbhati before I can do nasyam. Why am I doing kapalbhati? Why is kapalbhati part of the only 6 kriyas that yogis gave us? Because it takes care of a very important instrument besides the diaphragm, and of course cleansing the lungs, moving the abdominal, moving the lymph, moving the thymus. It takes care of the instrument of the nose. The nose is not where we breathe. Breathing, according to yoga, is always from the center of the body. Breath is always initiated, according to our texts, and if you practice, you'll know why, from the center of the body. So when you do your pranayam, and I'm sure you all have wonderful pranayam practices, even if it's short, even if it's long, breath initiates from the center. The nose is simply an instrument. The nose has 30 other functions. It moistens the air, it humidifies the air, it dilates the blood capillaries. It does other functions. It makes nitric oxide when we do Brahmari, and when we do Kapalbhati, and when we optimize the function of our sense organ of the nose, we make nitric oxide. Nitric oxide recently won, a theory on nitric oxide recently won, about a few years ago, won the Nobel Prize for being the panacea of for longevity and immunity and radiance. What does the nitric oxide do? It helps with that last mile journey of the oxygen, where it actually has to insert and dump into the organs. Nitric oxide does that. So taking care of the nose, I don't know how, so many years ago, Hatha Yoga Pradipika said, Jal Neti is part of your 6 Shat Kriyas. Do your Shat Kriyas. If you have too much mucus, phlegm, anything that takes away from a good practice, you need to get rid of it. You need to eliminate. Do your Shat Kriyas few times a year. You don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do Jal Neti every day. Jal Neti, when you feel like you have some mucus, your nose is clogged, you come back from a journey, a road trip, it's polluted in Delhi. Take your discretion for Jal Neti. Because too much Jal Neti at the end has salt, and salt can be very drying. And when salt is drying, it can leave cracks in your nose. So Jal Neti is good twice a week, once a week. Okay, but this time, because this topic is seasonal kriyas with and around the breath, Neti is something I cannot overemphasize. So take care of the nose, take care of your diaphragm, take care of your morning movement and your lymph. So when you do your Jal Neti in the morning, I don't know if you want me to quickly talk you through the Jal Neti, because we're talking about the 6 Kshatriyas. You know that the water has to be lukewarm, not hot. The water has to be tepid. The water has to be salty like your eye drops. So when you taste the water before you do Jal Neti, it should feel very low in salinity. Too much salt, too little salt will slightly irritate your nose. Okay, with practice, it'll come. Make sure the water is not hot. It'll irritate your mucus lining of the nose. And you don't want too little salt either, because otherwise it won't really irritate the allergens and the debris to come out. I keep a tumbler. In the tumbler, when I mix the water, I taste. Just like you make a nimbu pani and you taste before you serve it or before you drink it. You do a little tasting, tap the temperature and do a little tasting, then pour it into your neti pot. Don't put your salt in the neti pot. Then how will you? It's just nice to have a tumbler close by. That is your second Kshatriya. That's your third Kshatriya, sorry. First one was Tratak. Second one was Neti. Third one was Kapalbhati, in that order. And then the last 3 are more about the stomach, esophagus, and the GI tract. Dhoti, stomach, taking the bile out of the excessive bile, or if you're very, your pH of your stomach is not good. Noli, dhoti. What's the third one? Basti, that's for your colon. So those are things that have to be taught by a teacher. But because we are talking about prana, breathing, radiance, I'm going to be talking today mostly about the diaphragm and taking care of your nose, right? So that was your Kshatriyas. Now Ayurveda gives us 3 pillars. Just like a stool with 3 legs, all of equal importance. It gives us the Traya Upastamba, which is the 3 pillars of longevity and health. In that, first one is ahar, your diet. So your diet, I just mentioned in springtime, should be one of cleansing, not heavy foods. Nothing heavy, anything, maybe a fasting. The Mahashivratri is right in the middle of Kapha accumulation, aggravation time. So a fasting, a Monday fasting, twice a week fasting, a 4-day fasting, a kanji fasting. You must have heard of kanji, which is that it's even easier to digest than khichdi. Khichdi can still be heavy compared because it has vegetables and things. There's the kanji fast. There's the, so don't do intermittent fasting and break it with coffee. That's not fasting. So ahar, how to eat according to season. So ahar is one of the 3 Trayambak stambhas, the 3 pillars. The second pillar is sleep. Sleep plays a very important role in your immune system, your circadian rhythms, which is why Vata hours comes in. When I started the session, I started with Vata hours to be able to plan your sleep, for your melatonin to be the star of the show. How is the melatonin going to be the star of the show if you do not expose your eyes to the early morning sun? So see how Ayurveda and yoga overlap. Here we're talking about early morning Tratak. We're talking about early morning sun Tratak. We're talking about rising in the Vata hours and doing a Kriya. Many of you must have heard of the Laghu Shank Prakshalan. That's a cleaning of the GI tract. All the sphincters of your body are given salt water. So you drink copious amounts of salt water till your capacity. You do 5 poses, 7 times each, and then you excrete out you drink from the top and you excrete out from the anal sphincter, one of the many sphincters, for you to be able to clean out your entire GI tract. What time is it always given? It cannot be done if the sun has come up. It has to be done an hour, maybe not the Brahma Muhurat, but that Muhurat after the Brahma Muhurat, 5:36. Not later than, no good teacher will teach a Laghu Prakshalan after 5:30 a.m. and you shouldn't do it, because Vata hours in the morning are designed for you to expel. And this is the time when you can even expel and practice your deeper exhalations, That's what essentially the practice comes to: deeper exhalations, elimination in the Vata hours, sleep at the right time to be able to trigger your melatonin at night. When you look at the early morning sun, when you draw the curtains, you stimulate the medulla oblongata, which eventually tells the brain when to supply melatonin to the body at night for you to get good sleep. So this is all lifestyle. The third pillar of Ayurveda is brahmacharya, which also means rituals, lifestyle, how you conduct yourself with, it doesn't mean the whole day you're doing rituals. It can just be simple rituals, lifestyle changes in your life, you know. So if you remember Shatkriyas and if you see the three pillars in Ayurveda, you'll see a lot of them is about management of prana. A lot of it is about balancing your prana, to smoothen the flow of prana into its dharmas. Okay, to not be too much in the head, it'll be too little in the colon, because whenever you, I know people who suffer from constipation or stomach issues, and they are depleted in their apana vayu, the ability to eliminate. Chances are that their exhalation is also very short. Chances are that their nervous system is very sympathetic dominant most of the time. There's too much vata in the body and there's irregular flow of vata. And when there is anxiety, again, your inhalation and exhalation is short. So can you imagine via the tool of breath, how many things we can take care of? Otherwise, all your pranas will push and pull against each other. There'll always be this, if your apana is weak, it's probably because your prana is weak. And if your prana is weak, your apana is weak. If you have when you have little inhalation, then your exhalations will be compromised. So there's always a push and pull, and that's when disease manifests. So we talked about qualities of the morning. We're talking about a judicious combination of asana, pranayama, movement, mindfulness, and dharana. So you wake up in the morning, ideally in the Vata hours. Vata hours, as I said, best time is 2 Mahurats before sunrise. 1 Mahurat is 48 hours. Just before sunrise, please try and wake up before sunrise. If you're trying to take care of things like study, writing, distraction, bad quality sleep, any habits that you want to get rid of, anything, you just start with just giving yourself the challenge of waking up before sunrise. That's the time you wake up and you do a little bit of tapping. When you go to wash your face with cool water, you do a little tapping. This is 30%, no, 1/3 of your lymph glands are in your neck, chest, and head. So I wake up and do a little tapping because it's always on the top. In the neck, downwards. Face, very lightly, jawline, lymph nodes in the head, even massaging the lymph nodes in the cranium. So I just take the pads of my fingers, not my nails, and I just massage my hairline. Just a lovely little cranium massage to get the lymph out of the head. Make some space in the back of my neck because back is where the transportation happens. And then I bring in the diaphragmatic stimulus. How do I do that? I do that with a little bit of Kapalbhati. I showed you Kapalbhati. I do it against the wall. But if you have time to sit down, it doesn't take more than 5 minutes. You start the first one with your hands here. The second one, with your arms lifted. If you have problems in your shoulder in sense of, you have any limitations in your shoulder in terms of movement, you can have your arms in a big giant Y. The third one I do with my hands on my upper back with my elbows. The idea is to lengthen your side trunks, your sideways. So there's no compression. When there's no compression, you can access your stomach. Many people spend their lifetimes with tension in the stomach. And they may not realize it because there is so much adrenal and cortisol in the body. We're so sympathetic dominant. I'm talking about the parasympathetic and sympathetic. When we are always reactive, when we're always doing, when we're not resting enough, we are sympathetic dominant. Sympathetic dominant is nice, but it's not sustainable. It's not something that can sustain you with health. It's nice, you need it. You needed to get your emails out of the way. You needed to organize your home, but it's not sustainable over a long period of time. You need a bit of both. So when you have too much cortisol in your body, or you may not even be aware you have a cortisol in your body. Sometimes your breath will tell you if you are too sympathetic dominant. You will resist pranayama. What you most need, you'll resist because it's hard. It's hard. What we do is we pacify the stomach. We just, after Kapalbhati, you place your hand over here and you just pacify the belly. Many times we get people to pacify their belly and access the belly with this very simple thing that you can do even at night or before any pranayama, is to prop your legs up, put your one hand in your belly and just feel the rise and fall of your belly. This is the easiest way to pacify and come out of any sort of held or chronic stress that you feel and that you don't know how to get rid of. Chances are your stomach could be very tight. When your stomach is tight, your vagal tone is low. And I talked about vagal tone. For those who came in late, I think you can ask for a recording. So working on your stomach is the first thing. Kapalbhati also does that. And it wakes up the diaphragm, your primary breathing muscle, your diaphragm. The other thing that Kapalbhati does when you do it like this is to bring the elastic recoil of your intercostal muscles back. Your intercostal muscles were meant to be elastic. Your rib cage was not meant to be a cage. It was meant to help protect the lungs at the same time, make space, make the vacuum for bigger inspirations and better expirations, right? So the idea is to make the diaphragm supple and to make the intercostal muscle supple. Just start doing that the first 1 month, is clearing your nostrils of debris, mucus, phlegm, softening your eyes with tratak. If you don't want to do tratak, you can bring it in a little bit later at dusk time in the evening. If all rituals are morning heavy, but that's okay. You can also do it in the Vata hours of the evening. You can stimulate your diaphragm and lymph, and you can then move your immune system. You tend to get colds, coughs too often. Your immune system is compromised. You have very stressful work hours. You start to move your lymph. It's like your dustbin. You're emptying your dustbin. So even our computer, when our dustbin is full, we have to empty it, right? Similarly with our lymph. Once we move the diaphragm, the other thing that starts to happen is the bile starts to flow from the gallbladder into the liver. So all of these processes and functions and physiological things kickstart with this very simple thing of breathing, stimulating your diaphragm via the stomach. Then we want to access apana vayu. We want to eventually move into deepening the breath. What does pranayama essentially do? Prana ayama. Ayama means to expand. Prana means what we talked about, your innate intelligence within you, the prakriti and the intelligence that you have evolved over years. That is your prana. Ayama is to use the prana and to help you extend your lifespan. So to expand your lifespan via the working of prana is pranayama. That's another interpretation of pranayama according to texts. And how do you do that? You can do it in these ways. You can lengthen your inhalation, you can lengthen your exhalation, and you can lengthen the retention. There are two retentions. One retention is after inhalation. It's called kumbhak, of course. And one is the exhalation, the retention after exhalation, bahir kumbhak, the exhalation after you expel air. Okay. And most of your, now science is catching up, but I don't know how the yogis knew this. They knew this because they obviously observed their own health. Is most of the carbon dioxide and oxygen to the tissues and to the organs happen after exhalation and when you hold the exhalation out. Once you hold the exhalation out is when the actual inhalation and when the actual breathing process takes place. Anyway, that's more information right now than we need. I want to be able to leave you with practices. So we work on not only working on the length of the inhalation, exhalation, breath retentions. There are 2 breath retentions, but we do one more thing. We work on the depth of the breath. We work on the dirgha and sukshma, the qualities and the parameters of the breath that Yoga Sutra gave us. Okay. We work on parameters of deepening the breath. So say I can exhale today because my nervous system is not prepared. It's taking baby steps. The exhalation can go up to 8 without the next inhalation sounding like I'm gulping air, because I exhale too much. So if you can make your exhalation from 8 to 9 to 10 to 12, you can slow down the breathing process in your breath practice, because normally we take about 15 to 16 breaths per minute. Pranayama, we can take up to 3 to 4 breaths per minute. That is the idea of pranayama, is to slow down the breathing, to make the depth and the subtlety, the depth of the breath long. How should the pranayama be? Like Krishnamacharya said, like tel dhara, like you pour ghee, unobstructed, smooth and fluid, okay, without a break. Like how should the inhalation be? Like you were sipping through a straw, smooth in one like in one stream. So these are the parameters of the breath. What is the third thing you can do in pranayama? What should you be doing? The 3 things you can do in pranayama. You should be looking at in pranayama is you have minimum muscle tension when you hold the breath. So when you are exhaling, none of these muscles are tight. Your face is soft and smooth. When you're inhaling, the breath is emanating from the center of your body. When you're inhaling the breath, there's no tension. The muscles are ready, responsive, and prepared for lengthening the breath in your pranayama. These are the 3 things that we are working on. And we do that with asana, with postures. Okay. This is a natural byproduct of taking care of yourself physically. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't just sit down for pranayama. I'm waking up and thinking about a lot of things. This needs to be done, that needs to be done. I need to take the tension out of my body. And this is what we do. We do some movements which opens the respiratory muscles. One very simple movement is also given by the Bihar School of Yoga Acharya. Very simple. You can do it standing as well, but because we're all sitting, I'll show it to you. So you basically Open the sternum, your clavicles, your ancillary muscles, and you exhale into your abdomen. So squeezing your scapula, your shoulder blade, pushing the heart forward like Hanuman, really pulling the sternum. Sternum is where your rib cage fuses. You open and you empty. Another really important way to do this is hooking the thumb underneath the armpit, the tendon of the shoulder that attaches to the torso, and creating space here. So just creating space here. This is also where a lot of lymph glands are, which is why we often tell women not to wear wired bras. Because when you wear wired bras, your lymph doesn't have any place to move. Okay, so always do abhyanga of this area. Lots of lymph glands in the armpit and the breast area. So we create space like that. Another way I like to do that is make space in the ancillary muscles of the upper body. So I do inhale, exhale. Inhale, open, exhale. And remember, when I exhale, I'm actually accessing my belly. I'm accessing my belly in order to trigger my vagal nerve, Swadhisthana chakra, however you want to look at it. Stimulate my diaphragm. You can look at it in terms of science. You can look at it in the way of energy, prana. You can look at it from esoteric glasses. You can look at it from medical glasses. However, so exhale here, inhale here, exhale here, inhale here. This is after my Kapalbhati. And I like to do some. Just going to make sure that I'm on speaker mode so that I'm still on your screen. And I just some, because I want to get the elasticity back in my my ribcage diaphragm, in my, intercostal. So I do this in the mornings. You can do this even standing. This is just some movement you want to do in the morning, but you want to move the lymph. The biggest, the largest, condensed lymphs are in your stomach. It's called the galt, the gut-associated lymphatic tissue. It's just the biggest amount of lymph anywhere in our body is the stomach. And I love the way abdomen breathing stimulates the lymph of the galt. So there are many ways that abdomen breathing, it's not like you're breathing into your stomach, you're actually breathing into your lungs, but the stomach is facilitating the lower lobes of the lung. And like I said, the lower lobes of the lung is where the actual breathing takes place. So I also wake up in the morning and I do this. You're here like a sumo wrestler, and I just exhale. Inhale. Let me just take this off so you can see me. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. The other way I can do this in the morning is just 5-6 movements. Inhale, pranavayu. Exhale, apanavayu. Stimulating the galt, stimulating the lymph, stimulating the diaphragm. Inhale, pranavayu. Exhale, apanavayu. Inhale, pranavayu. Exhale, apanavayu. Okay, so these are some things that you can do in the mornings, some movements, keeping in mind your stomach, your belly. Keeping in mind the distribution, the movement of the lymph in this. So many times in the morning when I wake up and I do some movements, I do some Kapalbhati, my family hears me spitting in my sink. I spit in the mornings because my lymph is actually draining from the back of my head and moving down my throat, and I catch it here before it goes down and burdens the body, burdens my organs. I actually take it out. I catch it here and I take it out because 1/3 of your lymph is in your forehead and your throat. So this is an understanding of how we approach pranayama, the building blocks of pranayama. Right? And so the whole purpose of this pranayama is to bring sattva. You take the rajas guna out from the asana, too much overactivity, too much thinking, too much doing. Then you take the tamaguna, the depression, anxiety, the heaviness, the lethargy, the procrastination. Pranayama takes that out. What is it ready you for? For prakash, for clarity, for a better perspective of things. You see things as they are. You have better vagal tone. You have a better way to come out of stressful situations in your life without less and less damage. And that really is the essence of longevity, radiance, and health. And so the Yoga Sutra says something quite beautiful about pranayam. Tachiyate prakasha avaranam. With pranayam, prakash here means sattva. Sattva is when all of your elements are in equilibrium, when there is lucidity, clarity, when there's no viscousness in your head, your cerebellum isn't sticky, there's no fistula in your cerebellum, it's fluid. The cerebral fluid there's better connectivity in your head, and it's radiant, and your thinking process is clearer. When you're stuck in a life situation and you want to shift in perspective, or you want to have the courage to do something, you basically take care of the congestion in the head. So that's what pranayama does. Tat prakashate avaranam. And so grow old with pranayama, age with pranayama, make pranayama your really good friend, and make your kriyas an assistant to your pranayama, something that assists with you with this param tapas. Pranayama was do your asanas, do your postures, do your headstands, do your whatever exercises that you love to do. Do it with moderation, but make time to end with pranayama and involve these aspects of your lower belly, which has the secret and the magic secret, potent magic secret to our vitality. It all lies over here. And what is it that I was trying to say? I just want to make sure I've covered most of the things. Made a list of things to do. Your indriyas, we talked a little bit about the nose. I'll mostly talk about the nose here. We won't talk about taking care of the indriyas of the other sense organ. That takes a lot of time. We're mostly doing this around breathing. Yes. And the other thing that you can start with to extend your exhalation, because that's where we want to do. The longer the exhalation, the better your sympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, the system that takes care of supplying blood flow to your major vital organs, not on your limbs, but to your major organs. That's where your radiance comes in, your ability for you to have a lovely balance in your autonomic nervous system, your sympathetic and your parasympathetic, is to able to take long exhale, which is why chanting Om is such a beautiful step towards your exhalation. So what I do is I start with sometimes just I let my exhale go to such a point that I give my stomach a little squeeze, not mechanical, not hard. You don't want to tense your muscle, but a little squeeze because there's no other air left. Once there's a little squeeze, my lungs are empty, then my next inhale after Om will be fuller and more voluminous. Okay, and imagine doing that 9 times, 12 times, 16 times, 21 times. I urge you to have a once a week practice of 21 times of Om. Now, Om has not just Om, it also has that Shunya, the Bindu, the fourth vibration, which is the pause. Don't forget the pause between the next Om. So I'll do 3 for you. Pause, pause, pause. Okay, so you start with 3, move on to 9, then 12, and then this is after Kapalbhati. So first came your tapping, then came Kapalbhati, then came Neti, then came a little bit of Nasyam, oil, ghee, mustard oil, sesame oil in your nostril as an antidote to the salt in the Neti. Then Kapalbhati. After Kapalbhati, Om. After Om, belly breaths. And after belly breaths, start Ujjayi with belly breaths. Anulom Vilom with Ujjayi breaths. Pratiloma with Ujjayi breaths. All of these breaths were designed for your exhale to be longer than your inhale without straining or huffing and puffing or pushing the breath. Okay? It is a natural byproduct of your strengthened sympathetic nervous system. It should just come naturally with abhyas. So the counting will become the abhyas. The counting of the exhalation is the abhyas. Okay? So the metronome is like that, a rhythm to the breath. In, 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause. Okay, so there is a metronome, there's a rhythm, there's a beat. Okay, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so not like that, a second between the beat. So you build a rhythm, you build a layer, you build, most importantly, you build subtlety to your breath. So if I had a feather underneath my hand, I wouldn't move the feather if I was breathing out. So the room should not hear you. In my yoga center in Delhi, when we used to do pranayama, people used to think that taking very enthusiastic inhalation, I must be doing it right. I think the subtler you are, the quieter you are, the more the brain is reading the breath. The brain is actually spying on your quality of your breath, on the length of your breath, the texture of your breath. Okay, so the breathing mechanisms were made with great care. Nature made us with great care, with a lot of care. So the breathing mechanisms were designed in such a way, the parameters given in our Yoga Sutras of Dirgha and Sukshma, of Lay, of Kala, where you're breathing, where is your emphasis on your breath, was all given. Yes, understand. So that is the basis and the foundation of your breath, is lengthening the exhalation without strain to the muscle, letting your sympathetic nervous system prepare itself naturally. But before I go, before we close this class, there's something that I wanted to read to you. I found it just 2 days ago, and I read it to my class. I want to read it to you when you're lying down. So if you could just lie down and put your calves on a cushion. Lie down with and just hear this. This is from a book by a master called the Belly Master. He calls it, it's a belly master. He's a belly master. His name is Tarnevji. And I want you to listen to one of his small paragraphs he wrote in his book. We sit or lie down with our backs straight, palms either in our laps or on the knees, bringing gentle attention into our body. We would notice that the body tends to relax. Now, we gently bring our loving attention to our face region, shoulders, chest, palms, calves, and feet. We try to feel each area for at least 15 to 20 seconds. Can go up to 1 to 3 minutes. And at the same time, we smile, as this is a celebration. We tend to feel the life force, the sensations, the warm feeling, the tingling feeling, or even the void. We do this by just being present to them, noticing them, acknowledging them, smiling at them, embracing them and hugging them. Then we bring our gentle attention to the belly area, 2-3 inches below the navel, and being there for some time, 20 seconds, sometimes 5 minutes. Use your own discretion. Then we try to feel the whole body simultaneously. We attend to it so beautifully and intimately that we disappear. Only the awareness of this feeling remains. During all this exercise, thoughts and mind bring lots of things that may need our attention. However, in a very compassionate way, we attend to the body. Let's practice this exercise more often. Also, the following phrase, I'm enjoying this present moment, can be uttered or realized with your attention to the belly 15 to 20 times a day, and with a smile on our face. We are complete at all times. So I want to just leave you with this poem and this lovely paragraph that I found in his book just the other day. And I want to leave you with the fact that just merely knowing about pranayama is not enough. We have to actually practice regularly. To be regular is more important to just merely know or intellectualize pranayama. So thank you very much. I just want to make sure I haven't left anything out. I probably have. Just don't forget that all systems work together. Nothing works alone. And nothing falls sick alone. Even a headache doesn't happen just because of the head, or you don't have stomach issues just because of the stomach. Everything comes together and nothing heals alone. And use the medium of your breath to heal many, 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 many functions of the body. Also, not just to heal, but also to bring vitality and potential to your in your journey, whatever you take up. So thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Hello My Yoga.